Hey nerds, journey through the Roadhouse multiverse with me as I review the new film starring Jake Gyllenhaal streaming on Amazon Prime soon, and the 80s classic starring Patrick Swayze, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Soul Show. I'm Nathan. So, I've seen the new Roadhouse, and as a journalistic service, I rewatched the original, which I hadn't seen since childhood. Given the amount of nudity in that version, I assume the version I saw was a TV edit when I was a kid, but I'll say more about that later. Let's start, as we usually do, with the spoiler-free logline. I'm going to start with the 80s version. Roadhouse. Brawling, two-fisted action ignites this tale of a bouncer hired to clean up the baddest honky-tonk in a Missouri town. Armed with a black belt in karate and a PhD in philosophy, Patrick Swayze sets out to tame the Double Deuce for its owner. Okay. In the new 2014 version, the spoiler-free logline is, in this adrenaline-fueled reimagining of the 80s cult classic, ex-UFC fighter Jake Gyllenhaal takes a job as a bouncer at a Florida Keys roadhouse, only to discover that this paradise is not all it seems. And just right there, you see some of the differences and similarities between the two films. But before I get into analysis, let's talk about the production team and the cast for these films. So the 80s movie was directed by Rowdy Harrington, the 1989 movie, and the reimagining was directed by Doug Liman, who is best known for The Bourne Identity and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It was penned by Anthony Bagazzozzi, who's known for writing The Nice Guys, and his writing partner Charles Mondry. The cast of the original, of course, starts with Patrick Swayze, who is known for this movie, but perhaps best known for Dirty Dancing and Ghost. He portrayed a blend of brawn and intellect, embodying the era's ideal action hero, a cool-headed fighter with a heart. Ben Gazzara played Brad Wesley, the menacing tycoon antagonist, and Kelly Lynch played Dr. Elizabeth Clay, the love interest with minimal backstory, which I'll get to a little bit of that later as well. And Sam Elliott portrayed Wade Garrett, the seasoned bouncer and Dalton's mentor. He brought gravitas that parallels a lot of his roles in dramas and westerns. Of course, the new version stars Jake Gyllenhaal as the lead, known for his roles in many things, but most recently Nightcrawler and Southpaw, very similar to this film. He's great for a lot of reasons I'll get to later on when I do the full analysis. Danielle Melchior, fresh off the Suicide Squad, plays Ellie, the compassionate yet resilient local doctor. Melchior has little to do, but is convincing and likable in her role. Also, as I will discuss later, this movie fleshes her out as a love interest a bit more. Billy Magnuson plays this version's antagonist. He's best known for Game Night and Aladdin. He plays Silly Prince in that movie. He brings the sinister, smarmy charm as Brent. Jessica Williams, recognized for The Daily Show, Two Dope Queens, Shrinking, The Incredible Jessica James, and Booksmart, portrays Frankie, the roadhouse owner with a tough exterior and loyal heart. I love Jessica from The Daily Show and Two Dope Queens. She's given little to do here, but with her charm, she does her best with what the script gives her. However, she gets to deploy much more of her talent in the show Shrinking. Conor McGregor, in his acting debut, plays Knox, a menacing mercenary whose presence escalates tension and stakes. He's a sinister presence, but the cocky way McGregor plays him is also pretty funny. It's a decent performance for a UFC fighter who's never acted before. Supporting roles include Joaquin de Alameda, who you may know from movies like Desperado and Fast Five. He plays a corrupt local sheriff. Also, there's Lucas Cage from Euphoria, who plays Dalton's starstruck bouncer mentee. I also want to give a special recognition to two small roles, one played by Otero Castro, who plays Mo in this movie. You may know him from Broad City. He plays one of the henchmen or goons, but he's one of the funniest things in the movie. Also, Hannah Lear, who's a child actor who I last saw playing an annoying teenager in Special Ops Lioness. She's far less annoying in this movie, and you can catch Sweet in my review of that show up there above. All right, so let's get into it. I think with rare exception, most of us groan when we hear that an old classic movie is getting a remake. However, as a millennial, I can't ignore the nostalgia factor that often clouds my memory of childhood favorites. Many of us remember the original Roadhouse fondly, but revisiting it as an adult reveals its many many shortcomings. The 2024 version of Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal stepping into the role of Dalton manages to breathe new life into the familiar story while offering a fresh perspective on its characters and themes. One of the striking aspects of this remake is its divergence from the original in tone and portrayal. The 1980s version boasted a larger budget and leaned heavily into crude sexualization. The 2024 adaptation takes a more nuanced approach. The sexualization and objectification in the original are stark, with gratuitous nudity and camera lingering on women's body parts, reflecting the era's less nuanced approach to sexuality in cinema. That said, the 2024 version, while more restrained sexually, sometimes feels too sanitized, missing an opportunity to portray a more balanced and mature exploration of human relationships. However, the new version can boast a more diverse and memorable cast of supporting characters. The original was very white, even for the era. There is one speaking part for a person of color in the entire film, and the character is a black homeless man who gets a few lines at the beginning of the film. Also, the humor in the new Roadhouse stands out compared to the almost humorless and self-serious original. I remember one joke from the original about a polar bear, and when I watched it again, I chuckled when I remembered hearing it 30 years ago. But besides that, pretty self-serious. The remake provides moments of levity that adds to its charm without detracting from the tension and drama of the narrative. Gyllenhaal's portrayal of Dalton is particularly noteworthy. Unlike his predecessor, in this rendition, Dalton is not merely a tough guy with martial arts skills, but a complex character genuinely haunted by his past and struggling to connect with others. Gyllenhaal's Dalton is grappling with personal demons in a way the original character only hinted at, and Patrick Swayze, more straightforward, charismatic performance. Gyllenhaal brings a raw intensity to the role, imbuing Dalton with a vulnerability that adds layers to his character. Similarly, the screenwriters fleshed out the love interests and the antagonists in this remake in a way that adds a bit more depth to the story. They aren't ocean deep now, but they aren't as paper thin as they were in the original. While some plot points may echo those of the original, the characterizations feel more substantial, and the motivations and backstories in the new Roadhouse add layers to the narrative, creating a more engaging and comprehensive story. Visually, the film benefits from the Florida setting. The production team shot most of the movie on location in the Dominican Republic, with the coastal backdrops lending a picturesque quality to the cinematography. While the budget constraints are evident in the scaled-down settings and fewer extras, the filmmakers effectively use their resources to create a visually engaging world. The fight scenes in both films reflect their respective eras and budgets. The original Roadhouse featured grandiose and sometimes over-the-top action sequences marked by a distinct 80s flair, including the iconic yet impractical roundhouse kicks that we all thought was the ultimate move when we were kids. With a larger budget, the movie makers filled the 80s film with pyrotechnics and dramatic brawls. These scenes provided spectacle but lacked realism. In the 2024 version, Gyllenhaal's physicality and the fight scene choreography lend authenticity and intensity to the action, making each confrontation feel significant and impactful, and grounding them in a realism lacking in the original, partially due to Swayze's dancer physique. While Swayze's performance was iconic, Gyllenhaal's build and demeanor more accurately reflect a seasoned fighter, aligning with the character's backstory and the film's grittier tone. As written in this script, Dalton fights with surgical precision, meting out violence reminiscent of how Robert Downey Jr. played Sherlock Holmes.
With cross to left cheek. Discombobulate. Dazed, will attempt wild haymaker. Employ elbow block. And body shot. Block ferrule left. Weaken right jaw.
However, beyond his knowledge of pain points of human anatomy, Dalton doesn't have a mind as sharp as Sherlock, simply a precision fighter, or when pushed, a sophisticated brawler. Jake Gyllenhaal commented in a recent interview on the role's physical demands and his approach to learning from others. He said, "We watched hundreds of videos of real fights. We wanted to see what it looks like to really take a hit." He also mentioned his leaning on the experience of Conor McGregor. McGregor, for his part, when interviewed, mentioned his desire for the fight scenes to appear chaotic and unpolished. That all said, the film has its flaws. Some of the camera work during the fight scenes can distract viewers from from the action. Additionally, as I mentioned before, while the toned down approach to sexuality is a welcome change, the near complete absence of it feels like an overcorrection that is way too common in movies over the past decade. Directors and producers have to figure out a way to remove the sexism and misogyny and restore some sexy to movies. Sex and lust are just as much a part of the human experience as anything else that movie makers portray on screen. So, in conclusion, while Roadhouse 2024 may not be a masterpiece, it offers a fresh take on the action tale. With solid performances, much more humor, engaging fight scenes, and a more nuanced approach to its characters, Remake is a worthy successor to the cult classic. Whether you're a fan of the original or not, Roadhouse 2024 is worth a watch. So, my rating for the original, which still remains a cult favorite of mine, but through adult eyes, it does slip into B-movie territory in the third act, earning it a couch co-op, or a 4, which on our scale is a film that's perfect for a lazy night on the couch with your best friend. I'm going to give the remake a dinner party, or a 7, reflecting its broader visual appeal, more competent script, and depth. On our scale, a dinner party is a film worth watching and dissecting with friends at home over good food and wine. However, given the film's setting, maybe tequila or rum and coke would be more appropriate for comparing and contrasting the two films with friends over tacos. Anyway, I think each film mirrors its respective eras, showcasing the evolution of action cinema and societal norms. Which Roadhouse resonates more with you, the raunchy B-movie of the 80s or the introspective complexity of today? Drop your comment down below, and if you enjoyed this review, hit the like button and subscribe for more analysis like this. See you next time. Bye guys.